Bailey's Story, A Puppy Tale, Chapter 18. I went to Chelsea's house first to see if Duchess was out, but there was no sign of her except a yellow patch on the snow near her front door. I lifted my own leg over the same place so that she'd know I was thinking of her. Normally, when I go outside the gate, I went for a stroll along the creek, except, of course, if I saw Todd there. But because of all the snow tonight, I had to stick to the plowed road. Some people had already dragged their indoor trees outside, although at our house the tree still stood in the front window, glistening with lights and hung with shiny ornaments for Felix to attack. When I came across one of those discarded trees, I marked it with my scent. I could always smell just one more tree a little farther down the road, and so I stayed out later than I've ever done before. If I hadn't gone so far, if I'd turned back just a little sooner, I might have been in time to stop what happened next. Finally, a car turning into the street from a driveway up ahead blazed its headlights into my eyes. When it drove slowly by, the smell of it reminded me of the smell of Mom's car, those times she and Ethan would come looking for me. I felt guilty for being so far from my boy, so I lowered my head and trotted for home. When I turned up the driveway where Ethan and I had dug that morning, I stopped. My eyes and my nose together noticed several things at once, all of them wrong. The front door was open, and wafting out was the warm scent of home. But another scent was laid on top of that, something chemical, sharp, both unpleasant and familiar. I'd smelled it in the garage before, and all the car rides I took with the boy. Gasoline. That smell was so strong that it covered the scent of the person backing out of the open front door. All I had to rely on was my eyes, and in the moonlight I thought I was looking at my boy. I trotted closer just as the figure turned, tossing more gasoline from a jug in his hand onto the bushes near the front door. I stopped. Now I was close enough to catch the scent. Todd. He hadn't seen me yet. The fur along my spine and neck rose as he took 3 steps back and pulled some paper from his pocket. From another pocket came a book of matches. There was a tiny scraping sound, and a flare of light popped up in Todd's hand, brightness flickering across against his stony face. He tossed the burning paper onto the bushes, and a blue flame swept up, making a soft whoosh in the quiet nighttime air. Todd didn't turn. He stood watching the fire, and I never barked. I never growled. I just raced up that sidewalk in silent fury. I knew good dogs didn't jump on people. Good dogs didn't knock them down. Good dogs didn't bite. But all of that didn't matter. Somehow, I knew that what Todd was doing was wrong. He was trying to hurt the boy and my family. I could tell it from the crackling heat of the fire, from its charred smell of danger, from the dark delight rising inside Todd as he stood watching the burning house. Even more than staying close to the boy, playing with the boy, comforting the boy, my job was to keep the boy safe. I had done that in the woods. I would do it here. I leaped for Todd as if I had a pack at my heels, crashing into him with all of my weight, knocking him to the snow. Todd yelled and thrashed underneath me, twisting and rolling. He kicked at my face. I snatched his foot in my mouth and held it, biting hard, holding on while Todd screamed. His pants ripped and his shoe came off in my mouth. I dropped the shoe, lunging forward to get a second grip on his foot with my teeth. Yelling again, Todd hit at me with his fists, but I kept my jaws locked around his ankle, shaking my head as if he were prey. I'd never bit anyone, not like this, but I didn't let go. Then a shrill, piercing noise stabbed through the air. I jerked my head around to locate this new threat. Inside the house, I could see that the indoor tree was burning like a candle. Thick smoke poured out of the open front door. Todd yanked his foot free, and I backed away, shaking my head. The noise hurt my ears, and I wanted to run from it. But what about my boy? Staggering to his feet, Todd limped away as fast as he could. I let him go, suddenly more worried than angry. I added my own alarm to the noise, barking and running from front door to the driveway and back again. I pivoted and raced toward the back of the house, but the pile of snow that had helped me leap over the fence was on the wrong side. I couldn't get over, so all I could do was bark louder than ever. While I stood there, making as much noise as I could, the back door opened. Black smoke poured out, and Mom and Dad came with it, coughing and banging on to each other and hanging on to each other. Mom spun back to face the open door. "Ethan!" she screamed. Dad pulled Mom toward the gate, and I met them there. They pushed the gate open against the snow and shoved past me, stumbling to the front of the house. They stood looking up at the dark windows of Ethan's room. "Ethan!" they shouted. "Ethan!" I raced through the gate to the open back door. Felix the cat was on the patio, huddled under a bench. He yowled at me, but I didn't stop. I ran inside. The heat wrapped itself around me and choked me. Smoke forced its way into my eyes and nose. Unable to see, unable to smell. I tried to stagger toward the stairs, but it was hard to tell which way to go. The sound of the flames all around was as dark as the wind when we traveled in the car with the windows open. My nose bumped hard into something, a chair, a wall? I couldn't tell. I couldn't find the stairs. I couldn't find my boy. Desperate for clean air, I sensed the coolness of the open door behind me and ran for it. Outside again. The fresh night eased my stinging eyes and my burning nose. Mom and Dad were still yelling. Lights had come on across the street and in the house next door. Through the window, I could see one of our neighbors talking on his phone. "Ethan!" Mom and Dad shouted. "Ethan!" Fear was pouring off of Mom and Dad. Never, not even when Ethan and I were lost in the woods, have I felt an emotion so strong. Mom was sobbing and Dad's voice was getting louder and tighter, and when I started to add my own frantic barking to the noise, no one told me to stop. My ears picked up the thin wail of a siren, but it seemed to be far away. All of the other noise was faint beside the roar of the fire, a sound so deep and loud that I felt it as a vibration in my entire body. The snow in the yard was starting to melt, clouds of steam rising as the yard sizzled. "Ethan, please!" Dad shouted, his voice breaking into a sob. Just then, something burst through Ethan's window, showering the yard with shards of glass. It landed with a plop in a mound of wet snow. The flip! I raced to it and picked it up. That's what I was supposed to do, right? I'd show Ethan that I had the flip. He'd be happy. Ethan's head appeared in the hole that the flip had made in the window. Black smoke puffed out around him. "Mom!" he yelled. Coughs almost swallowed the words. "You've got to get out of there, Ethan!" Dad roared. "I can't open the window. It's stuck. Just jump!" Dad answered. "You've got to jump, honey," Mom shouted. The boy's head disappeared back inside. The smoke was going to kill him. "What's he doing?" Dad asked, standing rigid, staring at Ethan's window. I ran to his side with the flip in my mouth. I couldn't bark anymore, but I wanted to. I wanted to make all the noise I could, race around the yard, do something with the terrible, frustrated energy building up inside me. But I didn't. I leaned on Dad's leg, trembling, waiting for my next sight of the boy. "Ethan!" Mom screamed. The boy's desk chair crashed through what was left of the window. A minute later, the boy followed, but something, a foot, a knee maybe, caught on the broken bits of wood and glass still in the window frame, and instead of sailing over the smoldering bushes and into the yard, Ethan flopped right into them. I dropped the flip to bark madly. Mom and Dad scrambled forward to drag Ethan onto the soggy grass, rolling him over until he lay on his back, his eyes closed. "Are you okay, son? Are you okay?" Dad asked. "My leg," Ethan gasped, coughing. I snatched up the flip and jumped to his side. My boy smelled burnt and bloody and hurt and frightened. "Go away, Bailey," Dad ordered. The boy opened his eyes and grinned at me, reaching out a shaking hand. "No, it's okay. Good dog, Bailey. You caught the flip. Good dog."